house for sale as is? How much is this house worth? That's our topic today. We'll get started right after this. Hi, I'm Kim Ward, real estate broker in beautiful San Diego, California, and expert with helping with homes in probate or trust. Welcome back to my channel. And if this is your first time here, be sure to hit the bell button and subscribe. That way you will be notified of all my upcoming videos and you wouldn't want to miss any of them. House for sale as is. How much is this house worth? To sell a house as is means that you're selling it in its current condition. And the expectation is that the buyers will not request any repairs. Plus, the house will come with all of its defects and faults. So what are the pros and the cons of selling a house as is? This is a question that you may have asked yourself if you're planning on selling a house that's in less than perfect condition. Some sellers believe that it could be the easiest course of action to sell as is, and some sellers also believe that it would relieve them of any liability. We'll be talking about all of that. The first thing that you should know when selling a home in California is the California Association of Realtors documents default to every home is sold as is. Every single home. But what that truly means is the buyers complete a purchase agreement, submit it to the seller, counteroffers go back and forth, an agreement is made, and we open escrow. Then the buyers typically do an inspection, and most of the time they ask for some type of repair or a credit towards their closing costs for any defects that the home may have. So what does selling as is mean? It means that when a buyer fills out their purchase agreement, they are clearly stating they understand it's as is. And keep in mind, this is not a typical traditional buyer that would agree to such terms. It's an investor most of the time. Before you decide to sell your house as is, you should really be very clear of those pros and those cons. And once you understand your options, you may decide to go in a different direction than selling as is. So what does selling as is not mean? Like I said earlier, some sellers may believe that they would be fully relieved of all liability. That is not the case. Even when selling as is, the seller must disclose defects that they are aware of in the home. If they choose not to do this, there is a possibility of liability even years after the sale. Here in California, we have disclosures that need to be completed, signed by the seller, sent over to the buyer's agent, signed by the buyer, and then that disclosure is complete. Also, as a real estate agent and a realtor, I have obligations to represent my seller and make sure that they disclose things clearly so that there aren't any questions and that things are properly disclosed. This will protect you as the seller throughout the transaction and beyond. My obligation as your realtor and representing you through the sale of the property is to complete my documentation. It's called an agent's visual inspection disclosure. So I would walk through the house inside and out and make sure that I write down any items that I see defective. Could be cracks in the wall, peeling paint, chips in tile, things that I can visually see with my eyes. All things that are defective in the house are not obvious. Over the years of guiding my clients to complete the disclosures, I ask deep questions to find out what they may know about the property. For instance, maybe 5 years ago, the decedent had a water leak in the home and told you about it. That is something you'd want to disclose. And here's the good thing about disclosing things. In most cases, buyers, when they're buying a property, will look at that disclosure. Perhaps the item was already repaired, and they will feel comfortable going forward. What you don't want to do is ignore something that you knew from the past, because perhaps the neighbors will be talking to your potential buyer once they live in the home, and they'll share that, yes, the family, including you, was over at the house during the time that some type of construction was being completed to correct a default. That could cause problems for you after the close of escrow because you didn't disclose that defect. Quick story. Bob was selling his mom's townhouse. He was the executor of her estate, and he knew that she had had a roof leak maybe 7 years ago. That's what I guided Bob through the disclosures to make sure that he wrote that down, said he knew about the leak, the year that it happened, and what he believed his mother did to correct it. That protects the estate and Bob. Since Bob was the executor of the estate and had never lived in his mother's home, we used the California Association of Realtors Seller Exempt Disclosure document in order to disclose the roof leak. So let's talk about the problems with selling as is. Buyers will lowball you, meaning that they will assume that there's much more wrong with the property than may actually be wrong with the property, and they'll bargain with you thinking that you're desperate to sell. So you could expect to get offers much less than what you may want. Another thing is you and your realtor are going to have to work a lot harder to prove to the buyers the benefits of buying this as-is home. Your realtor will have to give plenty of reasons why the home is desirable. Oh, you know what? I never plugged this thing on me. Another potential negative is you need to consider that you'll have less buyers because it's going to be mostly investors, not traditional buyers, that would be interested in an as-is property. Reasons that you would want to sell as is: that there's not enough money in the estate to do repairs, that you just want things over quickly and you're willing to accept less, and that the house is in such poor condition that it would just not be cost effective to fix up the property. Now let's talk about compromise. I believe in looking at cost-effective repairs. Carpet, paint, just generally getting the house cleaned, doing some soft staging, making the house more desirable. Quick story about Eddie. I'm helping him to sell his parents' home in probate, and when I first looked at the property, there were things that were definitely defective about the home, but the carpet was in very poor condition. We put the house on the market for $459,000 and quickly negotiated an offer of $455,000. If I would have just left the carpet and just went forward with the sale, I believe that home would have sold in the low 400s. So talk with your realtor. Ask them if cost-effective repairs would increase the value substantially, and if that's the case, see if there's a way to make that happen and not sell the house completely as is. Hope you find this of value. If you did, give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button, and I will see you next week. Thanks for watching.